Alright, what's going on, guys? Dorohedoro anime episode number 2. This is going to be a review slash summary, so if you haven't seen the episode yet and you do not want to be spoiled, you should avoid watching this video until you have seen the episode. But with that said, let's get right into it. Now, the episode begins with Shin killing some guys. We got some weird disco lights, red, blue, purple, pretty epic stuff, and then they're inside of a car. Noi is bringing Shin some food, and they're having a conversation with one another. Now, I gotta say, the city backdrop is very nice. I like the lighting in this part of the episode. You got some nice sepia tones, some yellows and browns. Very nice, and in general, Dorohedoro's backgrounds look very picturesque. It has a nice aesthetic to it. Now, the character designs are something else entirely. Very bland, simple. God damn, the dinner scene, I'll talk about that a little bit later, but the faces in the dinner scene, like En's face, God, they just look so blocky and so wonky and wacky. It's just, I just can't get used to it. It just looks so off-putting. So I'm not liking that component of Dorohedoro so far. But then going on with the story, Shin and Noi are basically cleaners. They work for En, the sorcerer with the red hair who can turn people into mushrooms. And they're basically just killing various peoples. They're collecting magic users to ascertain vital information. And they collect one magic user in particular, and they basically disembowel him. They only save his head, and they put it inside of a bag. And there's a humorous moment where, Noi's got the bag, and, Shin's like, hey, let's go get some food, and she gets all happy, and then the bag opens up, the blood splatters all over her, and the head is just lying on the ground screaming for his life that he's barely holding on to at this point. So a very humorous, dark moment. Now, in between those events, we see Caiman at the hospital. He's working for Dr. Vox. He's helping out the various magic user victims, and he's just doing various odd jobs around the hospital. Now, in the midst of this, he's eating his lunch, and Dr. Vox throws him a bag, and he's like, here, take care of this. Caiman's pretty pissed off. He's eating his lunch. He's like, why do you gotta throw this at me? I'm trying to enjoy my meal here. But the interesting part of this is that the bag starts talking. Someone is inside the bag and he's still alive. However, he is in very horrific pain. He's been disfigured due to a magic user attack, and all he wants is just to die. He just wants to be put out of his misery. So a very somber scene here, and some nice visuals as well. I like the part where Caiman throws him in the incinerator, and then they have the smoke pipe outside and it's raining. That was a very nice shot. And I should also mention that they made a note to the fact that the rain in this episode is actually caused by the residual smoke left by the sorcerers who come into the hole, and it's more or less a toxic rain. Now, this is a very vital piece of information because this will play a role in the future episodes, so just kind of catalog that in your memory and just kind of hang on to it because it will be important moving forward. We then move on to Fujita and Ebisu. They're getting some suits, they're getting ready for a special event at En's house, and a very humorous little scene here. Ebisu gets a new dress, and what's funny about this is that, the dress doesn't fit quite correctly, and certain body parts are sticking out where they shouldn't, and even Noi makes a reference to this. Now, we also figure out that Noi is in fact a girl, so the WWE-esque outfit that she was wearing that kind of made her look like a man, she's actually a girl. But what I don't like is, aesthetically, she looks too bulky. I understand she's supposed to be muscular in the manga, but she almost looks like fat. She almost kind of looks like a Vader sort of muscular chubby. And, especially when we get to the dinner scene, everyone just kind of looks off to me. They just don't look quite right. En's face just looks atrocious. They could have made him look so badass, but again, like I mentioned in my episode 1 review with Nikaido, their faces just look too blocky. They look too rigid. There's no detail. So I'm really disappointed in that. I feel like if they could have just given it a 2D aesthetic, the whole anime a 2D aesthetic, like the background images, this could have been so much better, and it would have been something to marvel at, because Hayashida's manga panels are very detailed. So when you go from very detailed to very simple, it just looks a bit off. And then we have a situation where we have two magic users, Aitaki and Maitaki, and these two are specialists in metamorphosis. So they turn into Caiman and Nikaido, and this helps En and the gang so that they know who they're looking for in the sorcerer realm, because they're looking for the ones that bit off Ebisu's face because they want to retaliate. Now, these two magic specialists turn out to be imposters because they actually try to kill En in the process. Now, while they do this, they get caught. Noi decides to throw some forks at them. They decide to run away, but right before they get away out of the window, En uses his smoke and turns them into mushrooms. And, you know, not to be wasteful, they decide to eat them afterwards. So, again, a nice little humorous moment. We then transition over to Caiman and Nikaido once again. They decide to go to a different area in the hole. It's called Migamaru Hole, and it's a town that's very close to their hole. And they're going there because they're looking for a magic user that resides in that region. It happens to be a magic user called the acupuncturist. And the reason they're looking for this guy is because ever since the event with Ebisu, the magic door from the magic user world to the hole has been closed. So they haven't been able to find any magic users recently. Caiman can't shove anyone in his mouth and get any closer to finding out who turned him into a lizard dude. So they kind of have to search outside of their bounds for this one. So they arrive in the town, they're getting some food, and Nikaido gets stopped by a couple of guys. It looks like a very poor and impoverished area. So they want her food and they want her clothing. They just want some materials because they look like they don't have very much at the moment. And this is a very nice battle sequence between Nikaido and the guys here. I really enjoyed this. Very sadistic, very swift, had a nice flow to it, didn't feel too choppy. So, you know, the action and the background settings are very nice up until this point. I just wish the character faces were a little more detailed and had a little more effort into them. The next day, they go to a bar, they find the magic user, and as we've come to expect from Caiman, he shoves the guy in his mouth. But unfortunately, once again, this is not the magic user that turned him into a lizard dude. So Caiman's like, well, if you're not the guy, you're of no use to me. I'm gonna off you like I do with everyone else. But the guy's like, whoa, 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 hold on. I got some special magic here. I'm able to change people's faces. So I could change you back into a normal looking person. So he puts some of those acupuncturist needles in his face. Now, of course, Caiman is immune to magic for better and for worse. So no one can use magical attacks on him, and no one can use any sort of regenerative magic that would kind of help his appearance or, you know, any other purposes that might entail. So, you know, he puts the needles in him. It doesn't help. However, this guy is also able to predict the future as well, and he alerts Caiman and Nikaido of the fact that a heart might give him trouble in the future. And they're like, well, a heart, like, you know, we don't have any sort of cardiovascular issues. What could that mean? However, unbeknownst to them, Shin, who wears the heart mask in the sorcerer realm, could be that guy who could give him some trouble. So we'll kind of have to keep an eye out for that in the future. But as the episode ends, you know, his face is feeling itchy from all the needles. You know, he sheds his skin. And that's the end of the episode. So I gotta say, a nice balance between comedy and action. Dorohedoro seems to really excel at that. I'm really intrigued to see how the characters continue to grow throughout the series. We got some nice moments. I did mention in episode 1 that the pace was a little bit brisk, but I felt like this episode handled it a little better. I feel like we sort of took our time a bit. It did still feel a bit accelerated for my taste, but, you know, I'm starting to get used to this sort of pacing. Again, the things I didn't like, the character animation really needs some work. I figured they're probably not going to change much going forward. It kind of is what it is, but God, it is so off-putting. Looking at Nikaido and En's faces, like, they just don't look right to me. But the action has been quite good. I did like the parts with Shin and Noi fighting in the bathroom in the beginning, and Nikaido's fight with the hoodlums in the street was very nice. So, you know, there's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad, there's a lot of in between, but overall, I think we are getting a good product. It is one of the better anime for the winter 2020 season, so we're just gonna stick with this one, and we're gonna eagerly wait for the next episode. So I think I'll leave it there for now, guys. Episode 3 coming out next week, Sunday, and if you can't wait for the next episode, I have released reviews for 6 volumes of the manga, so if you want to get a jump start, if you want to see what's gonna happen next in the story, go check those out. Otherwise, I'll catch you on the flip side.